Welcome to the Compendium podcast hosted by Leadership Books. In just moments, our host Michelle Smith will be joining us with a very special guest. Before we get started, I would like to introduce you to Michelle. She's an award-winning marketing professional with years of experience in diverse markets. She is a 4-time published author and is also a seasoned publicist and national speaker. Michelle has appeared on Rachel Ray, ABC, CBS, CNN, Fox National News, Success Magazine, and many national radio programs. And she specializes in helping authors and business owners achieve publishing success. Won't you please welcome Michelle Smith?
Good morning. I am so excited to have one of our authors as part of the Compendium podcast. We have Freddy Davis, who's absolutely a complete expert in this area, and he's written the Truth Mirage. He's the president of MarketFaith Ministries, numerous books, and a background it's just unbelievable. As a radio show host, a worldwide trainer, and literally he can actually speak to Christian life in so many different levels. I am so excited to have you. Freddie, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so excited to speak to you about the Truth Mirage because I think right now more than ever, people are literally looking towards just faith in general in our pandemic. But if you could actually go to us and say, give us an overview of your book, and we can start from there and key takeaway points, and I'll let you take it from here.
Well, Michelle, it's such a pleasure to be with you today, and I'm delighted to have this opportunity. MarketFaith Ministries is the ministry that I lead, and it is a worldview discipleship ministry, and the focus obviously is on the topic of worldview, but in the context of providing Christians with discipleship training opportunities to use the principles and concepts of worldview in order to be more effective in relating their Christian life to what's going on in the world and even what's going on in their own lives. Worldview, in a nutshell, is the assumptions. This is kind of a technical definition, but it's really not that complicated. It's assumptions that people make about the nature of reality. And all that means is that that every single person that exists in the world has a set of beliefs that they hold at pretty much an unconscious level unless you study it to make it conscious. And those beliefs are the foundation for everything you think and do. In fact, if somebody says something or somebody does something that kind of goes against your worldview beliefs, you're wondering what in the world's wrong with them. What they're living in la la land, because it represents their understanding of what's real versus what is fantasy. So when you have people saying things or doing things that go against your own worldview, then your idea is that they're living in a fantasy world, but by the same token, they're thinking the same thing about you. And so as Christians, it is vital, totally and completely vital that we understand how to interact in a culture, in a society that is pluralistic with worldviews in a way that it never used to be. The whole idea of worldview, for the most part, was not even a useful or valuable topic for average Americans, because American society was founded on a biblical worldview, and most everybody, even if they weren't Christian, still operated based on biblical worldview principles and concepts. The people that in the past used to need worldview understanding were missionaries that would go to other countries and have to interact with people who had other worldview beliefs. And in fact, that's where I became interested in needing to understand worldview, is because my wife and I were missionaries overseas for nearly 17 years in 2 different countries. Wow. And so we had to learn how to communicate biblical ideas, Christian theistic ideas across worldview barriers that in order for people to be able to even understand what we were talking about. But now America has become so pluralistic with actually a naturalistic worldview now dominating almost every part of American society. Christians now need to understand this, in America, need to understand this and how to communicate our gospel message to so many of the people that live in America now. So that's kind of where the whole idea of worldview plays in, and it literally affects everything that we do and everything that we say. We look at what's going on politically right now, and basically what you have is people that are from one worldview interacting with people from a different worldview, and you see the clashing of heads that is happening so much in society, and the culture war elements that are going on, the riots, the different points of view as it relates to COVID, all of these things where there's conflict, the foundation, the basis of almost all of those conflicts is a worldview conflict. And so for Christians, being able to understand where other people are coming from and understanding how our beliefs interact with and relate to the beliefs of other people is a very critical thing if we want to be serious about sharing our faith, if we want to be able to have confidence as we have people bash us, if we want to be able to express a biblical worldview, biblical faith, biblical ideas to people that don't understand our Christian thought processes. We need to be able to take those worldview concepts and internalize them and be able to use those to help us communicate with those people. And so that's actually what the Truth Mirage is all about. I wrote it for that specific purpose so that people could understand the whole concept of worldview, and that's what the book is. It's kind of lays out all of the background and the elements, the different aspects of worldview, and the different areas where it's important for us as Christians to be able to understand that and interact with it.
The problem with most online bookstores is that, as an author, you have no connection to your readers. You have no idea if your grandmother, competitor, or that perfect client bought your book. If this wasn't bad enough, you're not privy to the purchase record of those buyers in order to sell them another book, or service, or consultation. The book retailer kept your sales data as their proprietary information, and you're the big loser. Now, to add insult to injury, because you have no connection to your book buyer, there's virtually zero chance that you'll connect to make them a client, hire you as a speaker, or attend your online course, a mastermind group, or privately consult with you. It's a model that has failed you time and time again. However, with Leadership Books, you'll always have access to your customers. We at Leadership Books would be honored to list your book alongside some of the most prestigious authors of our time. Would you like to join us? Just click the link below to get started.
I think it's especially important right now, like as Christians, and just like, I mean, we're in a new, era with like global pandemic, and we're in this is a whole different, ball game, for lack of a better world, where I have to explain like riots to my 13-year-old, where it's very like, how do we like incorporate like faith into all of this when there's unrest on every different level. If there's key takeaways from your book, The Truth Mirage, what are the key takeaways? Like if you had to like bullet point them down, what would be the key takeaways that your readers would receive from your book? And I mean, your background's unbelievable. I mean, it's stunning. But what would what if I was a reader, what would be the key takeaways?
Well, beginning with what I just talked about a minute ago, as far as the definition, what it is, because the word worldview has become, kind of popular over the last several years, and people use the word worldview without really understanding what it is. And so the first thing we need to do is understand the significance of the very idea of worldview. It really does define how people understand what is real versus what is fantasy, what is truth versus what is false. And it's unconscious in the sense that people are not aware of their own worldview and other people's worldview. They just know that there's the conflict, but as far as what causes it, most people don't understand that. And so that's a very important starting place, because we need to understand that when we are, for instance, wanting to share the gospel with somebody that comes from a different worldview, that we're not just trying to share a message. We're trying to share a concept that they don't even understand, that they consider to be fantasy. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how many times I've had people that I've talked with that, for instance, were naturalists, atheists, and they tell me to my face that my beliefs are fantasy, but they don't understand why they're saying that. That's just the way they think. That's what they understand to be reality, is that God does not exist. And so that definition is very critical. And another thing that's important to understand is how we get at a person's worldview. There's actually 3 questions that we can ask, and the answer to those 3 questions gives us the worldview category that different people are in. Everybody can answer these 3 questions, but they answer them according to the way that they understand reality. And so the first question is, what is the nature of ultimate reality? And typically as Christians, we think in terms of, okay, who is God? But other people have different ways that they understand reality. There's not a God, or God is impersonal, or different kinds of, there's many gods, many spirits out in the spirit world. Different people have different understandings of the nature of ultimate reality, and each worldview has its own. And so we need to understand what that is, not only for ours, but for the people that we're interacting with, so that we'll know how to deal with them, how to communicate across that. The second question is, what is a human being? And different worldviews have different understandings of what is the nature of a human being. As Christians, obviously, we believe that people are persons created in the image of God, but we're fallen. But there are people who think that human beings are nothing more than naturally evolved animal creatures. There are people that believe that human beings are just an expression of the impersonal life force. There's the Star Wars kind of idea. And so there are different worldviews, have different ways that they understand the nature of a human being. And then the third one, what is the ultimate that a person can accomplish in this life? And the way that Christians would actually define that question is, what is salvation? But other worldviews don't think in terms of salvation, so they do have an ultimate way that they understand, or an ultimate that they think that they can get out of this life. For some people, it's just, the best that you can get out of this life, because this life is all there is. Some people think that the ultimate is, to please the gods somehow, so that they will provide you with good things in this life and help you to transition to the next life. So each worldview has its own way of answering those 3 questions. And so if we can understand how we answer the questions and how other people answer the questions, then that gives us a means for bridging that barrier. Another thing that's really neat and special about understanding worldview concepts is that there are only 4 basic worldview categories. Now, this is important because every single belief, every single cult, religion, and philosophy that exists in the world is based on one of these four worldview categories. And so if you've ever tried to study world religions or cults and things like that, there's so many of them out there that it's very easy to get confused. But if you understand the worldview idea and then you can figure out which belief systems are based on which worldviews, because every belief system answers the three essential worldview questions that we just talked about in the same way as its worldview host. So there's only four categories. And if we understand that, then it just makes everything fall into place, easy to understand, easy to figure out where other people are coming from and how to address them, how to interact with them. So those are probably the biggest elements of worldview and understanding worldview concepts, and why understanding worldview concepts is so important.
I absolutely love that. And my question for you, though, is, I completely agree with everything you're saying, but how does one go through, and maybe this isn't a question you can't answer, but going through that paradigm shift of absolutely going from, you see something a particular way, and then all of a sudden, you're opening how would you say your book would describe that mindset of having that paradigm shift of looking at something from a very narrow viewpoint to worldwide views, basically?
Well, the fact is, every single person, even though people accuse Christians of being narrow-minded, everybody is narrow-minded.
Exactly.
They believe their own beliefs, and they exclude any belief that doesn't fit into their own. That's even people that say that they're broad-minded, they're not. That's just the fact. Everybody lives life based on their own worldview paradigm. As far as I guess probably the easiest way to answer your question is to say there is an actual way that reality exists, and it doesn't exist any other way. Now, the question is the way that I believe it exists the way that it actually exists? Is the way that other people think that it exists the way that it actually exists? And if it is, then your beliefs and the various elements of life as you live it are going to match up in ways that they don't if people that believe things that don't match up with reality. And so so one of the things that I try to do as I'm interacting with people like that is I try to ask a lot of questions. And specifically, I like to ask questions that they have to answer, that point out, that make them say out loud somehow, that points out that there are flaws, there are problems in their way of understanding reality. And so, just to give an example, like I said, naturalism is probably the most dominant worldview belief system that is in America today, and it's the belief that the only thing that exists is the natural universe. And so there's no God, there's no transcendent reality. Everything is, part of the natural universe, operating by natural laws. And so most all naturalists that have never, considered deeply the ideas that we're talking about, they believe that everything in every part of reality can be somehow ultimately understood using empirical science. It has to be, because the natural universe is all that exists. Mm-hmm. And so there are questions that you can ask that make them recognize that, their beliefs are not based on natural laws. They're not based on empirical science. Their beliefs are just as much beliefs of faith as mine are. They just don't realize it. And so I try to ask questions that force them to to say, well, I don't have an empirical answer to this. I have to believe it by faith. And that kind of begins, I guess, breaking up the ground for other people, because they have to come to a place where they recognize that what they believe is really not true. And that's a big deal, because all of us are pretty attached to our understanding of reality.
You're absolutely correct. Like, you are speaking the truth.
Hi, I'm Ron from Leadership Books. Leadership Books is a premier book retailer and news source specializing in nonfiction books. Books that help its readers change their lives, business, community, and family. Our authors are some of the finest thought leaders in the world of business, finance, and faith. Take a few moments and check out our authors, and I'll give you $10 off your first order.
If a reader was gonna peruse through your book, do you have a favorite chapter, or is there a favorite area, like, where it's just, I've worked on multiple books where it's like, hey, this is a must read. Is there a favorite that you have in your book, in the Truth Mirage, where it's like, hey, this is like, flip through, just go through the whole book, but you really should read this one, like, to anybody? Do you have a favorite?
Well, this particular book, I don't know that you can do that. We're dealing here with the whole concept of worldview and the implications of worldview. And so it's one of those topics that sometimes I get frustrated myself, trying to explain it, because it's not something that can be explained in sound bites. It really is a different way of different way of getting at reality, I guess, than the way that we typically as Christians have done it. Usually we think in terms of our own biblical worldview, our Christian doctrines, and we say, okay, this is what we believe, and anything that doesn't fit that is not true, and that is absolutely true. But and you can easily interact with other people that believe that, if that's where you are. But looking at things from a worldview paradigm is different from looking at it from a doctrinal paradigm. It's broader. It includes the doctrinal paradigm, because that's how we understand our Christian faith in worldview terms. But we have to see the big picture and where other beliefs fit into the worldview paradigm as well as our own. And so this book starts, at the very beginning. It just lays it out. It just kind of unpeels layer by layer by layer to understand the whole concept of worldview, and then get in a little bit to, okay, what are the implications of that as it relates to our witness, our faith life, how we interact with people in different arenas of life, like politics, like education, like business, all of these different things. And so really, you kind of need the information in the whole book, because it lays out the entire paradigm for understanding reality based on worldview concepts.
It's a great answer. So basically, read the whole thing, and I think that's.
Well, if you started, middle of the book, say, well, there's things that you're going to miss that are going to make you not really fully understand what it is you're getting at. So you really need to start at the beginning, and it starts out with just kind of the basic concepts. What is worldview? What are the worldview possibilities? How are they laid out? What are the beliefs of the different worldview categories, and just on and on, why the Christian worldview is true and other beliefs are not, there's just a whole range of things, but they kind of all need the foundation there to be able to work through it.
Exactly. I think like readers need to go through the whole thing to actually experience a paradigm shift if needed. I'm so excited about this. Like again, like Leadership Books have been raving about you from like day one. So so what's next on your agenda? Like, I mean, we know we can buy your book at Leadership Books, but like, what's next? What's next for you? Like, what's going on? And how can we further be excited about you? Because we want to get this message out. And I think globally right now, it's actually very much needed.
Well, we've got several things that are going on. Currently, we're working with Leadership Books on a second book, and I can go ahead and tell you what the name of it is. We're getting close to. I think we're getting close to finishing the editing process, which is rather tedious. I tell you, I'm so impressed with the Leadership Books folks because they are so thorough with everything that they do. But this one's going to be called Shattering the Truth Mirage. And it basically has to do with how to share a witness across worldview barriers. And so very excited about that. I'm doing that together with my ministry partner, Tal Davis. And so the two of us are writing that one together. I had a number of engagements that were lined up, and COVID hit. And so that kind of threw a monkey wrench into, into just about everything that had to do with going and speaking. But as soon as it's possible again, we'll be back taking those kinds of opportunities, and I speak at different churches and other Christian organizations on this topic and we can deal, in general about worldview. What is it, and what are the possibilities, and what are the implications of it? But we can also work with churches in particular. If a church is particularly interested in focusing on evangelism, then the new book that's coming up would be perfect for that. But we do presentations on that. How how do we understand our own Christian faith in worldview terms? How does a worldview paradigm interact with and affect our Christian life, the way that we live it day by day? I can deal with topics as it relates to culture. How do we express our Christian faith in the political arena, in the arena of education, in the arena of business, those kinds of things? So there's a lot of different ways that we can, and I do like to customize the presentation to the desires and the needs of the different groups that I speak to. But yeah, more than delighted to set up opportunities to come and speak to different Christian organizations and churches to introduce them to this whole idea of Christian worldview. And of course, churches that are very mission-minded and like to send out people to do missionary work. We can do missionary training as well. How to, that whole idea of communicating across, not just across cultures, but across worldview barriers. How to make those gospel presentations in ways that other people can understand clearly. Very important. So, yeah.
Well, Fred, you're quite amazing, and I can't wait for COVID to be over so you can go and speak and deliver this very important message. Right now, it'll just be via virally via the internet. But thank you so much for your time this morning. This was absolutely fantastic, and I think any reader should absolutely purchase your book just to actually have a new understanding and a paradigm shift if needed. So thank you so much for your time this morning, and I just appreciate
it.
And
let me share one other thing too. We do have a website. And the MarketFaith Ministries has a website that has tons of information on it. Articles that we've written on all of these different topics. I mean, we're talking dozens and dozens and dozens of different resources that are free as well. And we do a newsletter every week, and people can sign up for that. There's a worldview survey that people can take that on the website and have a look at their own worldview tendencies. And so there's just a lot of things there, and that's worth taking a look at as well.
And what is the website? Could you please share?
Yeah, the website is www.marketfaith.org.
Awesome.
MarketFaith.org.
Fantastic. No, this is absolutely fantastic. We will massively blast that out. That is absolutely fantastic. And again, a much needed resource in times like this. So thank you so much for your time this morning. This has just been amazing. Afternoon your time, I believe. And thank you. This is absolutely great and a total pleasure. And I look forward to seeing your next book coming out too.
Well, thank you, Michelle. It's been an absolute pleasure being on with you, and look forward to future opportunities.
Absolutely. Oh no, definitely. No, you're on my hot list, so it's good. All right, take care. Thank you so much, Freddie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for today's broadcast. I do hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And be sure to visit us online at leadershipbooks.store. There you'll find the works of some of the finest thought leaders today. And be sure to tune in here each week to gain even deeper insights from one of those leaders on the Compendium podcast.